great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to get you on the show finally. Tell us who you are, what you do.
My name is Natalie Henley. I own a digital marketing agency. Technically, we're headquartered in Denver because I'm here, but we're all remote, so we're all over the good old US of A, and then we've got contractors all over the world.
Awesome.
And we do digital, but our particular brand of vodka really is on the organic side, SEO, content, organic social. And then, of course, we do some things in like performance channels like paid, but I would say that's probably lesser of a focus for us than SEO. I'd say SEO is our core and
Awesome.
social.
And how did you get started in the agency?
Okay. So I think that I am a special brand of crazy because I have only worked in agency my entire career. So graduated out of college into the Great Recession, got my first job at Edelman Public Relations, which is a really cool shop. I was in DC, worked in at Edelman, and then moved out to Colorado and got a job at this little boutique up and coming digital marketing firm called Findability Group. And this was right when like SEO was just getting started. So like I remember, so at Edelman, I worked in market research, and people are paying millions of dollars to get access to data points. And analytics comes out when I'm there, and it has 4 data points that are free, and it just blew our minds. Right. So like we're right at the beginning of all of this. So I get hired at this little digital marketing agency, and it quickly just becomes, and this is the story of my career, is just start taking on things that need to be done that other people won't do. So I'm a daughter of two people. I came in, the sales process at the company was crap, so I took over sales. And then people started asking us about social media. Well, I was in college. I was one of the first few colleges at UNC Chapel Hill to get Facebook. So I was like, actually, I know quite a bit about social media. So I started taking on social media for clients. And then we had an SEO contractor, but she wasn't coming through really well for us. So I started doing more SEO. And I just sort of worked my way up and started running that company, which was a lot of fun. That's when I started doing public speaking. Um, and then that woman who owned Findability Group sold it to Volume 9. Ooh, gosh, probably 15 years ago now, 10, 15 years ago, some point in the indiscriminate past. And so I came on at Volume 9, and then every title I've had at this company, with maybe one exception, that nobody had that title before me. I just sort of made up my role as I went along. So I came in running marketing. At the time, Volume 9 was white labeling. So it was an unknown brand in the marketplace. Now we're really well known, which has really been cool. And right as I came on is when Google started unleashing all those horrible algorithm updates we used to talk about back in the day, Penguin and Panda and all that garbage. And so we lost like 60% of our top line revenue in like a 60-day period. It was nuts. We had to redo the whole firm, really build out our social media side of the house and like how we were doing communications and PR and creative marketing, not just sort of paint by numbers SEO. So I started running the company then. And then right before COVID, I became a part owner. That was really exciting timing. Like you could tell a really terrible story of like, man, Natalie took over as owner and then the revenue tanked during COVID. So COVID was a thing for us. We had a lot of clients. It was funny. I would have told you going into COVID we were really well diversified. We were not. Turns out a lot of our clients depended on the world being open. Like even our e-commerce clients, like one of our biggest e-commerce clients was a tux rental shop.
Oh,
Um, so like it was just so yeah, like we were big into like travel and tourism, and that just as you can imagine just cratered during COVID. Um, and so we had to build up after that, and then about I should know this number off the top of my head. 3 years ago, 3 4 years ago, the original founder of Volume 9, I think, was just sort of ready to be done owning a marketing agency. I think when he looked around, he realized he went from this like SEO, paint by numbers, team spreadsheets thing to this very creative, strategic, different feeling thing. And I just don't think that's where his dharma was leading him. So in a very exciting turn of events, and this was, I mean, we had talked about this like over the years, but he basically he told me on a Monday we needed to talk. He was coming to my house on Friday. By Friday, he told me he was out. He gave me a number. We had a couple glasses of whiskey, agreed on a number, and then within 30 days we were signing paperwork. So it was really fast. Um,
wow.
yeah, I had financing together because yeah, it turns out I didn't have like a truck of money just waiting to buy a company. So we figured it out though.
But not many
So
people do. And
yeah,
I that's why I wanted you on the show, because everyone always thinks about the only way to sell your agency and get out is to sell it to private equity or sell it to a bigger company. But a lot of people, and including me for many, many years, never realized to be like, dude, you could sell this to your team. Like they're committed to this. Like that's who they are. So how did you do the value, or did he just have a number? How did you figure out the,
so
valuation? Like,
I
with,
I think the whole thing was based on trust, and part of it is that so we had looked at different mergers and acquisitions over the years. So like both of us are pretty well adept at like generally how this works and generally what the numbers are. And then
okay.
I've been front row seats on the numbers and running the agency for years. So and like it's basically he probably could have gotten more. I could have negotiated for less. It felt like a very fair number. I still think like I look back at it and go, that was a really fair number. And we saved ourselves a whole lot of heartache on not needing to do a formal evaluation, not needing to hire a broker. And I think what was important to Chuck was one, he wanted to exit, and then two, he didn't want the company to crater afterwards. And I didn't want to, and so, and neither, and I think we accomplished those really well handily. And like, I mean, honestly, Chuck and I are still really good friends. You know, sometimes stuff comes across our list of like things that we can't help with, and it's like, oh, I know this guy over here that's really good at like programming and building things. You should talk to him. So we refer stuff back and forth. So like it's been a really like friendly. I think it has to be really friendly and like there has to be a high level of trust there because it's like
No.
it's easy to like negotiate why should the number be higher? Why should the number be lower? But the raw reality is if you have somebody you're going to sell to, they probably have been looking at the EBITDA of the in the profitability of the agency for a while.
Yeah.
And it's like everywhere where Chuck could have talked me into something higher, I know I could have talked him into something lower. And we both picked something that was fair. But I think you have to just be reasonable and fair in a situation like that.
So
Um,
when he came to you wanting out, because I think a lot of people listening right now, some people are getting to, like people want to sell, I feel, when they get to a point where they're like, I want someone else to just take over these issues. I'm tired of it, right? And I think a lot of people feel that if they went to their employee or their number two, or their leadership team and said, like, I want you to buy me out, I want you to buy the business, that's a huge leap of faith, because they could be like, oh my God, like Jason wants to sell, and you know, I don't want to put the risk on buying. I need to go find a job. Like that could crater the company, right? Don't you
yep.
think? Or
So I think it could, and that's why I think actually like in retrospect, Chuck did it really well. Of like he just threw it out like this company could be yours one day, and then like it did. It wasn't like we moved like through like a warming up phase. It was like oh every now and then like one day this could be yours, or I'm probably gonna sell this to you one day. So like I'm out. Like we went, and he's like I'm selling the company. I prefer to sell it to you, but if you don't want it, I will sell it to somebody. So, and I would say that he probably would have gotten more money if he hadn't have let it get to that point and if he
yeah,
had had the patience to take it through a process. So, I mean, I would say in general, like having your employees buy you out can be a really positive thing, but like also like getting ahead of this enough that you don't get to that, like, I'm out. Because like I
yeah,
think when you're pulling a ripcord, you're moving really fast, you're not getting the value, you're not thinking about it um and like you're not even thinking about like what you want next. Like if it's like gosh, if what you want is you're tired of your day-to-day role, great. How do you start grooming someone to do your day-to-day role, and then what do you want to do?
yeah.
um I just and if it's just like if it's not like no I'm done being in digital marketing at all, like that could be it. You could be like no I want to go like buy a chain of laundromats and do that now. Okay, great, got it. But if that's
It's
not
good
you,
for
if
money
you're like
laundering, I heard.
yeah, right. And there's definitely some agency owners that hit that point where they're like, I am over it. I need a different type of business. Cause I mean, honestly, somebody told me once, like, this is the craziest business model you will ever run. Like it is challenging. It is difficult. It can push you to the brink. So like, if you don't love this, I totally get it. But like, if it's something where it's like, no, I love digital and I kind of like this. I'm just really tired of, I don't know, employees. Like, great, hire someone to handle the employees. Like, there are options other than just pulling a ripcord.
So, and was this, and tell us any of the details you can't say, and we'll respect
Yep.
that. Was this like any earnout over time? I mean, you
Oh, yeah,
knew
no, no,
the.
I'm happy to. So basically what we had to do is um uh as an employee, so when Chuck came to my house, he had pre-thought this for me a little bit. So he had called the bank that Volume 9 uses, and he had them already price out an SBA loan. So he already kind of knew what that was. And I've heard SBA loans are cheap, but I got sticker shock looking at that. So then my next call was to a banker, and then my next call was to an accountant. And then I ended up having a series of calls with them on how to structure this. And then what we basically did is we found a way to really creatively structure this to get to the number that we needed. But like for a down payment for Chuck, for example, we'll put a HELOC on the house, things like that. We've got an owner carry note, stuff like that. So we kind of just we found a way to get to the number in different ways, that amounted to like, this is his buyout price. Here's all the things that I know are interesting to Chuck or that he wants. Let me try and stack this and see if I can avoid taking out an SBA loan.
Were you able
And
to
so
avoid the SBA loan?
we were.
Really
Yep.
nice.
Yep.
And then I presume you're paying over time and really kind of paying profits
That's
from the
exactly it.
agency.
That's the nice thing from my standpoint. And Chuck was really like, he pointed that out when he was pitching to me I should buy the company, of like, he's like, if you play this right, the company will buy itself, and that's exactly what's happening. Is that like we try to really fuel every dollar we can into growth of the company, but like any money that comes out just goes into paying for the company. So and
And you
that's
just
because
set
right
like a
now I'm trying
certain
to grow it.
percentage.
I'm sorry, what was
Like
the
it was
question?
was it like a certain percentage that you set aside to pay him out?
Uh No, nope, nope. There's a number. So like, I'm gonna use a fake number. Let's say the number was
Yep.
$1 million.
Okay.
Okay, so he got us a 200,000 deposit down payment, and then we have an owner carry note that we owe every month, and then a balloon payment at the end that we pay. So when we pull a dividend out of the agency, what we're thinking is, okay, I got to pay off the HELOC, I got to pay off this owner carry note, and I got to prep for this balloon payment.
Gotcha.
So and it's a
Okay.
set amount every month.
Perfect. And then for how many years does it go on?
So different things trigger at different moments. So, but overarchingly, it was about 5 years.
Okay. Cool. And
And
then
then
he was
The
completely
HELOC
out.
goes for longer, but I mean, it's so
Yep.
that's the HELOC is whatever the terms of the HELOC are.
And then he was out day one, or did
Yep.
he have a transition?
Well, we had so in general, we had a transition, but I would say it was pretty quick. I think it was helpful that I was already running the company. There wasn't that much to transition.
Yep.
Like a lot of the transition was passwords, and stuff like that, because there was quite a bit of that to work through. And then of course, like, you know what I mean, like figuring out what money was in the bank that was his cash that needed to come out. Like there was definitely 90 days worth of like work
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get to
You have
do that.
cars in the name of the business and
Yep. And
all
then
that
and
kind of
then Chuck
stuff.
stayed on as a consultant, as a strategic consultant, and that's a big thing, anyways. That I mean, if we had gone to get an SBA loan, that's what they would have wanted to see. Like anybody giving you a loan, first of all, would have asked for collateral, which is why we're like, well, let's do a HELOC if they're going to ask for collateral either way. And then two is they like to see a transition of power over time. So we kept Chuck on for 2 years as a strategic consultant. And I mean, honestly, like if I had a question today, I could call Chuck and ask him, and
Mhm.
he would spend time riffing through stuff with us. So, but like again, that's why it's like it's helpful if it's a non-contentious sale, and that person is willing to kind of be helpful. Like I think you got to have the right spirit and
Yeah.
mindset, because it's like every now and then I still got something for Chuck that I just want to bounce off of him or talk to him about.
Yeah. What is there anything you would do different knowing what you know now?
there's there's probably less, only because I'm like, man, I probably could have gotten that number down, but if we had done that, it would have slowed the whole thing down.
Hmm.
And I think part of why it worked so well and it happened is like, I mean, 30 days is unheard of for a merger, like for a sale. Like that's a crazy speed time. So, and I was excited to take over. So I don't know. There's probably something in there somewhere, but overarchingly, not
That's
really.
great.
I think it went. I mean, there was definitely stumbles along the way, but overarchingly, it went well.
Yeah, I mean, the art of the deal is neither party's going to get the way 100%. A fair deal is when you're like, oh, I could have done better. And he probably could have done better.
Yep.
But like, especially with the speed, um, that's amazing, right? Like now,
Yep.
I don't want everybody running out to their employees and going, buy me, right? Like it, I think he probably did
No,
that too quick.
he probably went a little quick. Like I would imagine if Chuck was going to do it again, he might do it a little differently. But I would say that like if this is something you're considering of like, man, I want to groom an employee, what you want to start testing the waters on is getting them access to the numbers.
Mhm.
And like, what do they do when they see profitability? How do they understand EBITDA? Can they understand? Do they have a growth mindset? Are they, you know, there's a lot of things you're probably looking
Yeah.
for a person. So I mean, I would say it's not average to have like a human who you're like that person's going to buy the agency, but what you want to look for is kind of that person that's like, hey, I can do better. I could take this on. Let me take that off your list. And when you've got that person and they've got a really good growth mindset,
Yeah.
I think you've got something really special. And then you just then you start stress testing them and getting them used to learning about more stuff about how an agency works.
And you already owned part of it too.
I did.
Like,
Yep.
right. So, which gave you access to all the numbers legally. And
Yep.
so,
Yeah,
right.
the process we ended up like in retrospect, the process of like, okay, I became a VP, and then at some point I became a president. Um, and then at some point I became a co-owner, and kind of that those sequential steps I think were really helpful to taking it over.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. Well, Natalie, thanks for sharing this. I just wanted to, that's what I always want to do on the podcast is just let you guys hear new ideas that's out there that maybe you haven't thought about. And it might not be the best solution for you. It may be, right? Like it's just that's what I always tell the mastermind community is just like, look, there's no silver bullet. I always laugh at those Instagram ads of the people in front of the Lambos and this is the silver bullet, guys. This is how I crushed and got 100K a month.
That's
Um,
it. It's
right?
I
Like that's
God, I wish there were
I do too. I I
whiskey. Whiskey is the silver bullet.
and pumpkin lattes,
Pumpkin one only one per year. Only
one
one.
per year. So cool. Well, awesome. Well, Natalie, thanks for coming on the show. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the audience listening in?
I mean, here's what I would say is that I think if you are seriously considering like selling the agency at some point, um you would be remiss to not at least think about your employees. Um and either way, when you sell, your employees are a key asset that the new company is probably going to want with them. So like it really doesn't hurt to start grooming who do you want to have more of an owner mindset.
Yeah.
Um, but like even for us, like as soon as like I've got this thing paid off, I'm immediately thinking about who do I want to like partially share equity with. And I realize that's risky. Like, oh my gosh, that's equity, that's control. But like when you start thinking about the long game of like, man, I want people bought in and I want somebody at the ownership level. And really starting to think like who could you groom along that path. Um, I think you're going to want that either way. And I just think it's a disservice if you go through the mergers and acquisitions process to sell your agency that you don't at least think about your employees first. Doesn't mean you have to sit down and tell them, hey, I'm about to sell this agency. You want it or not. But like start to be like, who could want it? And like, what if I just gave them a numbers conversation? How would they react? And what if I gave them a weird responsibility and like start to stress test it a little bit? Because it's going to feel really yucky if you sell your agency and you didn't at least give them a shot at it first.
Yeah, that's one of the regrets I had when there was our VP of ops that I brought in that he knew we were going through to sell, but it shocked a lot of the other leadership team, which wound up they wound up leaving, and then it cost us a lot for an earnout and a lot of different things. And I think if I could go back and I heard this story, like I would have went to Scott and I would have been like, let's see how we can work out a deal. Now we were pretty big, so it would have been a pretty HELOC wouldn't have done it.
No. Well, HELOC, yeah, HELOC on a down payment. That's what it's like. It's helpful when it was small, but like there is a way to do it. And like that's the
Yep.
thing is that if you care about your employees and you care about the company you've built and you want it to be
Yep.
successful, there is a way to structure this. And there's even a way to phase out. Like that's the like
Yep.
if you don't have somebody who's ready to take the reins day one, like I think where Chuck and I were in a good spot is I was ready to take the reins. But like let's pretend I wasn't. Let's pretend like I was still VP of whatever and I hadn't had my like time as a president and I hadn't been a
Yep.
co-owner, is like there could have been a way that Chuck could have phased it and gone part
Yep.
time and like we could have set up a board. There's so many ways you could do that to have a successful transition of power, get the money you're looking for, and feel really good about where the company is going next.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. Well, Natalie, thanks so much. And you have a cool tool. Should we tell people
Oh
about
yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, shout out my tool. Okay, so completely unrelated to anything else we've talked about. We have been talking to clients a lot about generative engine optimization and AI SEO, and we have a free grader that we just launched. That if you put in your website and optionally put in a blog post, it'll just give you a score against a bunch of best practices for AI SEO.
Where
It's
do they go for
free.
this?
You go to geo.v9digital.com.
Okay. Say it one more time, just so as people drive.
geo.v9digital.com.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, everyone go check that out. Natalie, thanks so much for coming on the show. And for everyone listening, if you want to be around other amazing agency owners like Natalie, where we get together on an ongoing basis and just talk through what's happening, really relate to what you're going through and figuring out a solution and seeing things a little bit differently because in the you're in the pain. A lot of times you can't see that solution. We'd love to help you guys out and introduce you to the rest of the community in the mastermind. Go to agencymastery.io and check it out. And until next time, have a swank day. Thanks, Natalie.